Welcome back and or to the channel, Trucker Rod and the S.E.E channel. So today we're going to talk about um, the word driver shortage, and I think it's more of a propaganda use. But before we get into the video, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, as you know, we're trying to facilitate the growth of this channel and see it grow, where eventually one day when I'm out of the truck and I can be in the office and bring you more in-depth conversations in the industry as like this one today. So I'm just getting comfortable, and as you saw in the thumbnail, I am in a rental, given the other truck's in with a grocery list full of problems. Therefore, they were thinking they could fix it in a day, day and a half. I said, this is going to be a week long, maybe two. So this truck is actually, we'll talk about this truck later. It's older, but it's spec nice, beautifully, for what I'm doing. So, where do I want to go? Oh, don't forget, when we get to the 1,000 subscriber mark on this channel, we will be doing a giveaway with that 1,000 subscriber for a full auto detail package. We're going to send you a wash pail full of all kinds of goodies in that. So if you could, you know, just help press the channel out there for more viewers to see. So like I said, when you like, comment, and subscribe, it helps rev up the algorithm that people are interacting with this channel. Therefore, it pushes it out there to be more recommended to other viewers. So anyhow, driver shortage, and I put some notes down here, but it's something that has been said for decades that I've been around this industry, and I think it's the biggest crock of shit. I don't know where they get the statistics from, that we have a shortage. We've got like 3.5, 3.8 million drivers in this country right now. We're going into a recession. Everything's constricting. Everything's slowing down. Manufacturing has left for the last, what, 4 or 5 decades, since the 70s, you know, Mexico, China, overseas, what have you. And I just can't see where we're always having this shortage. Driver retention is definitely a more buzzword and buzzkill for many companies, because the driver retention is driver turnover. I stayed with most of the companies over the years. I've had 2 that have bankrupt and bounced payrolls. I have gone through that. And it's all about, you know, for a driver as myself coming into the field, our expectations and what companies advertise and post out there that they will deliver on to that driver. I always called it broken, you know, when you read a company's marketing scheme of enticing you to come work for them, it is just a literature of broken dreams. But in today's age, what drivers are getting, the big things drivers are getting sick of is the low pay. And I've always said that if a driver has got to go out for 1 to 2 weeks or more, that driver should be making 6 figures a year. If you're telling a driver, which there's a lot of flatbed companies and reefer companies out there that, you know, specialize in that mainly, they'll put in their advertisement, hey, we need you out here for at least 2 to 4 weeks. I'm sorry to say, but, you know, if you're going to pull a guy or a gal from their home, away from their family for that amount of time, you damn well better be compensating them, or, you know, find another way. It's It's frustrating. It's just like so many things that a driver needs out here, and they're not getting um, delivered on. They get frustrated, they get pissed. I've seen drivers in the 90s abandon trucks, and this is just as trucks were starting to get satellite, um, and just abandon them in alleys, back lots, or the company did them dirty, didn't pay them well. And I've seen drivers in the 90s, they had either a fairly new truck or a truck that got brand new tires. They'll sell the damn tires off that truck. So if a guy pulls into the truck stop, and or if he's up at the service center looking to purchase tires, he goes, dude, I got 8 new drive tires and 2 steers. Company owes me money, so I just want to compensate. I just want to be compensated my money back. So he'll sell the tires. They'll take tires off, put the guy's bald tires on that truck. He'll take it back to the yard and say, there you go. I've seen a lot of that, and I've watched guys lose their shit at truck stops, because then we all communicated with our dispatch to the main terminal, home terminal, by telephone. We didn't have cell phones then, and we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have all that jazz. So you had to call in periodically out on the road to check in. That was the standard. Right now, mega carriers, and when I say the big carriers, your larger carriers like Swift, Swift Knight, JV Hunt, Snyder, the bigger boys that you see predominantly out there on the road, they're seeing right now a 92.7 turnover rate. Smaller companies like I'm at, we're a 5 tractor trailers and 1 box truck. Companies, smaller companies, with just a few, or maybe a couple hundred trucks, under 100 trucks, they're seeing a 77.6% turnover rate. So what does that say? It says that we're getting tired of this. When you run reefer, you're sitting in the dock, and I know you can spend hours. I know Tommy over there at Trucking Unfiltered, he comes right on and says, I can be here 2 hours. I can, sometimes if he gets lucky, half hour, but you can be there 2 hours, 5 hours, or 12 hours sitting in the dock waiting to get loaded or unloaded. It's all the game, name of the game in reefer as far as hauling produce, fresh produce. When he picks up in Nogales and takes it out to, say, Pennsylvania, yeah, you're making money while you're driving, but how do you all feel if you had to go to work and say, look, we don't have any assignments for you at your desk right now, but sit there, just sit at your desk and stay idle for 2, 3, 5 hours, and when we got work for you, we'll pay you. How would you feel about that? And then secondly, while you're sitting there at your desk working, or sitting idle, not getting any work done, like you're not getting paid, but you also have a camera on you. That's the other deterrent. Drivers are getting tired of being micromanaged with these inward facing cameras where they're just there. They can randomly stare at, they can randomly go in there. It's always recording, but I forget how it is, but they can go in and look in your truck if they want to, but they're not supposed to. And if you hit a bump, do a hard brake, or if your adaptive cruise, if the alarms are going off because you're following too close, the outward facing camera, because there's 2 of them, especially when I use the link system, I had the inward facing camera and then the outward. But if you're following too close for too long, it records it and then flags it that the driver's been following too close to traffic in front of them. That's kind of hard when you're doing 30, 35 on I-95 between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. It's bumper to bumper. But the camera's going to go off. The camera's going to go off when I hit a pothole going in a Walmart distribution center. And it records me, and they're like, what was that? And I said, a freaking pothole. If you did a hard brake, like someone cuts you off, pulls out in front of you, and you got to hit the brakes hard, that's a hard brake, it records. And you can see the camera will flip, usually like a red light, or a red light or green light will come on depending on your camera and system, but it'll come on and you can see it recording. And it goes, what does it say it does? It does 15 or 30 seconds back in time, and then at the current time going forward for like 30 seconds. So I think it gets minutes worth of recording in. So drivers are tired of that. They're tired of being micromanaged. They're tired of being talked down to. We're tired of going into shippers and receivers where as a, if you're, whether you're a company driver or if you own your own truck and trailer, you pull in to pick a product up. We say shipper or receiver, it's the manufacturer. So if manufacturer says, hey, I have a product on my dock that's been built, it needs to get delivered to the receiver. So say I make running boards for a pickup truck manufacturer. I need these are assembled, packaged, ready to be shipped. So you back up to the dock, you ship, and then you go down to the assembly line at the manufacturer that those running boards are going to go on. That's the receiver. But the shippers and receivers, they treat us like second-class citizens. You get in there, and I know there's guys that go in there and they just come right off belligerent and asinine right off the get-go. Only if I'm going to get talked, if I'm going to walk in and I greet them, smile, I don't come in and be ornery, pissed off. If I'm having a bad day, it is not on them that I have to go in and take my problems out to them. But, if they're going to talk down to you, which they do most of the time, some of them are decent, but I've had probably a good 30% of them, they're just downright assholes as soon as you walk in the door and hand your BOLs in. You're rushing to get there, whether to pick the load up or get the load delivered. So you're rushing to get there. Most of the time, you got to keep the left door shut. You don't get a lot of bathroom breaks. So, hey, can I use your restroom? I've been sitting here holding it so I can get here on time. Yeah, there's a plastic porta-john out across the parking lot. Whether it's -10 out in the dead of winter up north, or it's 108 degrees out, down south. Here's this, porta-john out there. I'm telling you, it's just downright ridiculous how they treat us. And companies want us to have, pass a drug test, pass a medical test, physical, have this CDL, do background checks, have all this experience and be seasoned to be able to take equipment down the road in a safe manner. So, Joe Blow isn't out here taking us to litigation in court because, we did some property damage or we got into a fender bender on the road. These are the stress levels, and on top of the ELDs, all this ELD, this electronic logging mandate, I think is the biggest crock of shit. College kids out of Silicon Valley in California came up with it, never saw the inside of a truck, but because of government, and that's what the United States government is doing, is putting control on us, every walk of ways of life. And I'm just saying that it's just one more way. I would love to just go old school paper logs, but now, they're like California, they're saying, oh no, you can't have a truck any older than this, or we won't register it. We won't let you come in and pick up a load in the ports. It's just getting to be control. When do we as citizens start taking back our country and pushing these people off to the side? They don't know any better. And so many people that drink the Kool-Aid, they just say, well, follow the science. Show me the science. I don't want to see it yet. I've not seen it. And we just came out of something 4 years ago. So what else? With the driver retention. And it is. It's not a driver shortage. It's the fact that you'll see in companies that hire, the people in the company, like HR, when they hire people, they can tell if they're a job hopper. They're going from one place to the next to the next. And a lot of these guys, the old school guys, or they get started with one company, say out of truck driving school, they get started with one company, look over their shoulder when they get some experience down the road. Hey, this guy's paying 2-3 cents more a mile. I'm gonna go down there. And they're always going to be leapfrogging, hopping to, these next jobs because it pays a little bit more, And I'm telling you, if you plant, if you find a company that's got a niche that you're comfortable doing day in and day out, you wait it out and wait your time like I did here. I'm already, from what I started, my first year, I knew what I made the first year, I knew what I made my second year. And I want to say I'm probably up about 30% over the last 10 years. So, plus moving up with respect and seniority and all that it entails. I've been very comfortable here. The schedule works for me. So the schedule works for me, and the only thing I probably would be complaining here right now is I'd like a better truck. But I guess if the trade-off is I take a entry-level truck to make great pay, I got to check myself now and then. But as far as driver shortage, if these companies would step up, there's a lot of mega carriers out there. And a lot of these bigger carriers, and I say mega carriers, these companies that got, 10,000 or more trucks out on the road. These cats, they pay their drivers shit. And I just started looking, like on Facebook, on their advertising, all of a sudden they're advertising, there's ads advertising ABC Trucking, 123 Trucking, and then they've got a guy in there doing a short video, about their company, explaining how well it is and what they do for their drivers. And I started going through these. I said, all right, what are these cats? What's their pay? The average pay, base pay, is like 55 cents a mile. But they jump up and they say you can make up to 65 cents a mile, up to 75 cents a mile if you want to get in a specialized, or 85 cents a mile. But let's be realistic. Quit talking up here, enticing these guys. Look, hey, when you come here, you're gonna be here. So I was breaking this cat down, and I was front running what he was gonna say next. And my wife goes, she was like, how'd you know that? I said, I know how they play that game. Well, yeah, you can make up to 65, 75 cents a mile as long as you meet your fuel bonus, safety bonus, you're on time for all your stops every month, and all it takes is you got a tire blowout, and you're gonna be pushed late to get to your delivery. You lost all your bonuses. So instead of making here, now you're down at the bottom base pay of 55 cents a mile. It's kind of like a waitress, she can make this much money if the tips are really rolling in and the place is hustling and bustling and busy, and there's people that are spending money and you give good service, but it just takes that one time, that one Karen or whatever, it comes in, and you may just walk out with what you're going to get on your base pay. What do they pay the waitresses now, or hosts, like without tips? I think back then, I remember it was like $2.50 an hour. That was when minimum wage was $3.35. So it's the pay, it's the benefits, it's the home time, it's decent equipment, and it's you need to cater to these drivers, even though the pay is better than it was 25, 30 years ago when I was in the prime of that in this industry. I'm gonna say that we're coming around full circle again, and these companies, these I started saying these big trucking companies with 10,000 or more trucks, drivers, big staff, your Swift, Snyder, JB, all these guys, they're also on the board of the ATA, the American Trucking Association. They're that way they have the influence and the lobbying for the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Association, that sets the rules and policies, that those are all set in favor for them and hurt the little guy, because then they can come in and gobble up more freight. And so they've strategically put themselves on boards like that. And the one that keeps them all in check is the OOIDA, which is the Owner Operator Independent Association, Owner Operator Independent Driver Association. But it's something like that just keeps the checks and balances, because those carriers are definitely trying to push the small guy out. It's a small trucking company that's out trying to get general freight, reefer, flatbed, oversized, over-dimensional loads. And I started seeing that during, was it 2-3 years ago? About 2 years ago, 2023. I told my wife, I said, yeah, I just saw a thing about JB Hunt is now gonna help haul logs and pull hopper trailers, like grain trailers to the elevators from like the farm fields and farmers and all that, or the co-ops. And I'm like, these guys were hurting so bad back then that they were taking their trucks and drivers and saying, here, go grab this hopper trailer, go haul, farm grain, go grab this steak trailer and go haul logs out of the woods. And it was getting to be that desperate. And I'm going to tell you that sometimes companies like that, like JB Hunt was doing it, you're taking an over-the-road truck and having it to go do work of a more heavy-duty or off-road truck. And all you're doing is tearing your equipment up with unexperienced drivers in a discipline they know nothing about. And there's times when carriers like that just don't belong in certain industries, and they just need to back off. But they're trying to get their self in every niche of the industry out here, and I think it's a brouhaha joke. But again, as you can see, what I'm saying here is these companies do to make a bottom line. A lot of them are publicly traded. A lot of them have investors, shareholders, dividend payouts. So those folks are going to get paid first before the drivers and the employees of that company. The company, that's why I've always said I will never work for a big company like that. They bring nothing to the table. The culture is pretty much, it's a dog eat dog within that big company. Just like Prime was a big, company, and lease owner, purchase operators. That culture really peaked around 18 and 2019, but now, they're all running for the hills. They're like, I'm not making shit. I'm making a lease to purchase payment every pay, was it once a month or every other week? And they're sorry, it's just stuffy in here. It's been raining, and I was going to give you guys a walk around here, but it's been raining on and off, and I just don't feel like doing it right now. I'm going to try either tomorrow or the next day. So, yeah, that culture is diminished. I've been following a few people that had some influence through their YouTube channels and all that. They have since moved on, bought their own trucks, and getting their trucks signed on with companies under like I could go out and buy me a truck and then sign on under someone else's authority, because That's what a lot of them are doing now. Even owner operators, they're getting themselves in a contracted situation. And Nia, they're over at Roadrunner Nia, Nia. She just bought a brand spanking new T680, but she's signing on with a company running under their authority. They're gonna, get her all her loads. Just watching Landstar coming in, they're the same way. You can buy your own truck, sign on with them with their authority. You pull their trailers and they get you the loads and jazz like that. That's the only way you're going to survive if you buy your own rig out here now is you have to get yourself under a contract to where I want to say you're dedicated, but you need to be under a contract load and not like some of these YouTubers who, oh man, I'm making all kinds of bank, but you notice a lot of them, some of them will really live off that load board. The load board is the rejection of freight that didn't get picked up, that the shippers need moved, that it's sitting on their dock, but no one can't, no one, I want to say not showed up to get it, but they're paying such a piss poor rate. The shippers are paying really piss poor rates, and the power should be in the carrier, the truck driver, not the shippers, and definitely not the brokers. The brokers are like the greasy salesmen from the 60s and 70s. They are the slime balls out there. And I hate to say it, but you would behoove yourself to really contract yourself with your truck and walk away from anything that has to do with I want to say a third party or outside broker. So I would definitely look at that. Now, what could a guy do if the retention rate's so bad right now? There's options. You could take, and I would say if as long as you've been out here for 10 years, you got 10 years of experience. I have a friend that I mentored. He is now a driver trainer. He went back to the school he got his CDL from, and they hired him. Now that he's been out in the field and lived in another state doing all kinds of different stuff, everything but hazmat. So therefore, after 10 years, he is now a driver trainer. You get your time in, you could go in and say, if you can drive a truck, you can definitely get trained to drive a piece of CAD equipment, heavy construction, jazz like that. You could get into dispatching. You could even start your own brokerage and be a broker, being that you've been on this side of the fence. You would know how you'd want to treat drivers and be fair with them. Carriers. Warehouse. Warehousing, inventory, stuff like that. Obviously you're picking up loads and this and that. Definitely get it. And I've seen this. This is in the 90s when I was still a young lad out there. 30 years ago. And more. But I would talk to a lot of cats either on the CB or at truck stops when I was heavy hauling. A lot of them were like, dude, my wife's a nurse, I'm a truck driver, we're just going to hurry. They're hurrying up. Maybe he's 45, 50 years old. He just wants to make it to like 55, 60. Then what they're doing is he's going to stop driving once the house and all their bills are paid, to where they just got the normal stuff coming in, taxes, insurance, utilities, groceries, medical bills, stuff like that. He's going to sell his truck and just work at a local shipper, receiver, like loading docks. And you'll see a lot of drivers. And if you haven't already, most of you could attest to this if you're a driver out here, that you could show up at a shipper or receiver and a guy will say, yeah, how is it out there? Yeah, I used to do that for 20 years. They got themselves positioned well. Positively, they got themselves positioned well to where they're like, you know what, I'm just going to take a local job so I'm home every night. Or, maybe they got tickets or something or their health went bad and they said, I just took this job. But, that's something, to consider, now, like I said, retention is these guys are finding other options out there. Like myself, I'm aligning other businesses to cash flow and make money because I'm building my exit strategy to get out of trucking. Now, what's my take on it after all these decades is And you could be a mechanic. Hey, that's another thing too. If you worked on your own truck and you got some basic knowledge, you can get trained. Some places will train you, and there's schools you can get, schooled in. If you want to be home more, if you don't mind working on these things, a lot of it's just IT stuff. So I know there was a lot of examples bounced around the last few days, and I've been just trying to absorb them in my head to reiterate it to you folks. That is, it's not a driver shortage, it's a driver retention. The drivers are coming out of trucking schools, they're getting out here, and they're like, this is one big fucking lie. And I hate to tell them, but yeah, I don't know. What did they promise you? Because that's the one thing I'll say when there's a young, fresh driver, and if he's in the truck stop or somewhere where I run into him, maybe at a customer's place, and they're like, man, this is a big joke, this is a big lie, and then I just listen and just let them just gripe and complain, and I'm like, yeah, someone really worked you up to get in this industry, and it was a letdown long before you ever signed your name on a dotted line to go to school to get your CDL, or sign on with a company that will train you to get through them to get your CDL, and then normally you would just have to stay for a year or so to pay them back for that time, for your training to get your CDL through them. So it's a driver retention, driver turnover. If these companies treat us like shit, they'll chew up a good driver and spit them out and bring the next one in. They're going to burn, and a lot of companies know they'll burn through a lot of drivers, but they'll push them, they'll push them, they'll push them. Coast to coast, you're going to run 70 plus hours a week, and sometimes doing your 34 out on the road, you're to get reset on a fresh set of hours. 60, 70 hours, that's the norm out here in trucking. And I think a lot of guys were, a lot of rainbows and pixie dust and other things were blown at them. And overall, I think they set themselves up without doing the research. And the best I can tell you is, if you're stepping towards a company, you need to know what you want to do in this industry. Do you want to do dry van? Do you want to haul produce? Do you have a wife and kids at home? What is your expectations of getting back home? And, what are you going to allow yourself to be out on the road for? A week, 2 weeks, a month? I've stayed out 3 months at the most, 3 months at one point. As I'm older, it doesn't bother me. When I was in my 20s, it bothered me more, because I had a very young child at home, and then when I turned 30, I had my second one on the way. So that tugs on you, and it also puts stress on the spouse that has to take care of not only everything on the house, the home front, but also the children. It's a lot of responsibility, and if they're not geared up for that, if you stepped into that after you got together, that could be problematic, especially for a divorce and or relationship strain, that you may have to reconsider being out here. That's another reason why guys get out, because they are young and they're looking to then settle down and have a family. This is not a life out here for that. And if my wife was in better health, I would probably try to get her to, I would say, maneuver to have her out here with me, or maybe look at getting our own truck and just doing it for a while. But she cannot travel for the way I run, being up and down day and night and day. It's too hard on the spouse. They got to be all in with you on this or not. But those are a lot of my points, a lot of what I saw through the other podcasts out there. It's not a shortage, it's a retention. The shortage, places like the ATA that we talked about, the American Trucking Association, with the big carriers that are running it, they're using the word shortage in a way to say, look, we have a shortage out there, let's push for autonomous trucks, more robotics, warehousing, stuff like that. They are trying all their damnedest to push all this technology and this other garbage. So if self-driving semi trucks are going to be in your local area, I wouldn't say coast to coast and doing what I'm doing, but it's because of the ATA. It's because of these bigger carriers. They want to, because they can run equipment round the clock. It doesn't need to take breaks because the human factor is taken out. So that is not bothering me. So by the time that becomes an in thing or it thing, hopefully I'll be sitting on my porch having my bourbon and my stogie and waving at everyone as they go by, bumper bashing each other. But yeah, driver retention, that's the problem out here. It's a shitty industry. You've got to have thick skin. You can't be a person that is tender heart and get your feelings hurt easy. And you're going to have to work long hours, away from home a lot. And you're going to have to work out in the elements, in climate control, out in the elements. You know, your job is constantly changing every day. And if you can't handle change every single day, and you're that type of person, that creature of habit that needs a routine day in and day out, like going to an office, working in a cubicle, doing a set project, and that's it. And if you throw change, and that's the thing about, especially here in America, when you make change, everyone starts kicking and screaming like a little 5-year-old toddler or a fish out of water. They're flopping around because you're changing everything. Change is good. We need change. And that's just, it's regardless. We as human beings need to endure having change in our lives all the time, so we can grow that character of ours, expand it, and have that thick skin, so we can also find solutions on the fly when things are changing and we have to think, okay, we're not going to do this now because this changed, let's go do this. You know, a load can get canceled on your way to, that's happened to me. A load has gotten canceled when I got halfway across Pennsylvania, then all of a sudden, hey, stop your truck, we're going to have you turn and go this way, you know, and that stuff. And you can't get upset about it. You just, like, that comes with the industry. So, and that comes with all facets of life and careers. So that's something you need to make peace with, or just be that real pain in the ass employee that is always going to be problematic and dramatic. So until next time, folks, stay safe, continue educating yourself, and we will see you all in the next video.